All right, it's Thursday night, time for our Las Vegas Triathlon Club member spotlight. And this is going to be a really great spotlight for me because we're going to meet someone who I know the name, I've seen him race, but I don't know him. And so I'm really going to enjoy hearing Bogdan Hirciag's story about getting into triathlon. And I'm going to let Bob do the official introduction, but it's really Bogdan's done a whole bunch of different races, and we're going to get into as much as we can in this 30-minute window. So, Bob, I'm slow here. How's it going?
It's going really good, John. I appreciate that. Thanks. And uh,
Awesome.
and like you said, I'm looking forward to this as well because I've seen Bogdan's name around, and he's done a lot of races and a lot of tough races, and I don't know him that well, so I'm really looking forward to get to know him. So welcome everybody. Hi, and welcome Bogdan Hirciag. And Bogdan
Oh,
is from Romania, and he came over to the United States, and you said it was about 20 years ago.
About 17 years ago.
17 years ago, and
Yeah.
you've been in Vegas since for the last 5 years.
Yes.
And you joined the club in 2021 last year, and you did one of our races. So
Yes.
welcome, first of all. Thanks for doing this for tonight. And what brought you from Romania to the United States? How come you came over?
Yeah. Hello, everyone, and thank you guys for doing this. Thank you, John. Thank you, Bob. So I came to United States in 2005, and I just ever since I was a little kid, I wanted to come to the United States. I have this not a vision, but some kind of a dream to just live here. And uh, I tried a lot of stuff in Romania, went to college, did a lot of sports, but at 25, I decided to just come here and to just move. And I've I did the right thing, and I've been enjoying my life here every second. I love it. I love it.
Well, you've obviously done really well, and for the folks listening, Bogdan owns and runs a company called the Plumbing Concepts of Nevada, and that's a. Would you be so that I don't get it wrong? Would you tell us what your company does, Bogdan?
Yeah. So when you hear plumbing concepts of Nevada, it's more like I'm a plumbing contractor. So I don't really do service. So we just build stuff. We're building plumbing for residential,
Okay.
commercial properties, remodelings, repairs. We're not plumbers. We don't do service plumbing,
mm.
like drain cleanings and stuff like that.
Okay.
Yeah, we focused more on building.
On
New
construction.
construction, yeah, new construction,
Okay, cool.
remodelings and stuff like that. Yeah.
So then, and that's what brought you over here. When did you start triathlons? And first of all, and what got you into triathlons? Why? Why?
Uh,
I mean,
so
what made you want to swim, bike, and run?
yeah, so it's an interesting story. In my 20s and 30s, I was doing a lot of team sports, like playing a lot of basketball, and I remembered watching. I knew about triathlons, but I remember watching that Ironman documentary on NBC or CBS. I think they were doing it every year about Kona.
Hmm.
And watching that, I was like, man, I will never do it. That's what I was thinking then. I will never do something like this. I mean, what are these people thinking? What are they doing, running all that much and being on the bike? I was like, I will never do that again. So, in 2013, in 2012, actually, I volunteered for a race in California because I was living in
Ah,
California back then, the Wildflower Triathlon. So I was volunteering over there, and once I finished my volunteering shift in the morning, I went to the finish line over there just to see what's going on, being involved in sports. I wanted to see, what's going on over there. And over there at the finish line, I've seen, I see people, crossing the finish line, crying. Some of them, they're like being like super happy. tears in their eyes, hugging each other, some people fainting at the finish line. And I told myself, man, there's something going on with this sport. These people are doing something. And then I said, I got to do this. I really have to do this because I got like goosebumps. I have to do this to see what's going on. And next year I signed up, for the Olympic race, and I was just hooked after that. And then I did the second race, 2014, I did the Olympic, and then I did the long course after that. And ever since, I was trying to do more and more races, but I was just super busy with work and life in general.
Well, don't get too far ahead of us. That is just so cool. The
Yeah.
fact that you volunteered for the race and then you saw the finish line and you said, that's cool.
Yeah.
And you wanted some of that. I really am glad that people are going to hear that. What made you volunteer? What made you volunteer the first time?
Some friend of mine knew one of the race directors over there, and they said they needed people to help. And Wildflower is like you go there, you have to camp over there for 3 days. And I said, yeah, sure, I'll go and help. Especially if it's like an athletic race. I will go check it out. I'm more than happy to help.
Oh, that's cool.
So yeah, that's how I got there, and it made me start a different a different sport, a different lifestyle, which I'm trying to do right now.
Yeah. Now this is where John comes in. He has some great questions about your first triathlon and how you get started. So
Well, yeah, I mean, Wildflower is such an iconic race, and like Bob said, it's so neat to go there and volunteer and then catch the bug to try one. And just a shout out to anyone who volunteers, and thank you for volunteering at that race. A lot of these races only happen because of the volunteers. And so that's pretty neat that got you into the sport. So once you decided you were going to do it, how did you approach training? Where were you training wise and fitness wise at that point?
I was pretty good in fitness, because I was still, working out. I was playing basketball, in one of the amateurs league in
Oh, really?
Long Beach when I was
That's cool.
where I was living. And yeah, I trained for the first race. I mean, I knew I'm going to do the race, but I trained for like a month and a half before the Olympic race. I was staying fit, I was doing sports. I was staying fit, but I trained for about a month and a half, and yeah, I did pretty good. I did not I borrowed a bike from one of my friends because I didn't have a bike, a road bike. So I borrowed the bike from him, and I was really scared about the swimming. That was the scariest part of me because I was not a good swimmer, and the distance really scared me. The 1,500 meters
Yeah.
in open water.
Where is the
That scared me.
Wildflower Swim? What? I've never done it. Where is the Wildflower Swim?
It's Lake San Antonio. It's in a reservoir. It's a man-made reservoir, but they stopped doing that race, I think, in 2019 because of the water levels of the lake dropped, and also there were not too many people that were going to the race because of that. And the past 2 years they have to change the swim to a different place, and you do the swim, then you have to run 1.5 miles to bike transition.
Oh, that's a heck of a transition.
Yeah. Yeah, so you go into bike, and then you come back and you do the run. Well, it was fun to me. I loved it either way, even with that run in between swim and bike.
Well, I gotta
But
say, you're saying you trained for a month and a half. You must have been really good fitness wise with the basketball, which is a great cardiovascular sport, and you need to be fit to do that. But you trained for a month and a half and you did a race on a borrowed bike and you were a little unsure about the swim. This sounds like it was quite the first race. Tell us about that race.
Yeah, it was, I'm just very, I like competition, and I put my mind to it. I said, I'm gonna finish no matter what. Like I have to finish. And with every race that I'm doing, to me, stopping is not an option. And I was like, yeah, I have to do. I was scared about the swim. Even when I start going into the pool, I never went open water swimming.
Mm.
That was my first open water swimming for
The
such a long
race was your
distance.
first open water swim?
That was my first open
Oh
water
my.
swim. I never swim more than, I don't know, 200 meters or something like that in open water. I was trying to go into the ocean, but it's kind of scary to go in the Pacific Ocean,
Yeah.
March and stuff like that. But
So what was it like standing on the start line? I mean, all of a sudden, 1,500 meters can look pretty long.
yeah, I looked. I never seen the buoys like before. The night before, I was keep circling over there to see maybe I can find the buoys to see how long am I gonna swim. But yeah, it was pretty
So yeah,
scary.
so
I,
what
I
was
was
it
pretty
like when you
scared to
saw
be
the
honest.
buoys for the first time and you saw how
I
far
was
out there
like,
they were?
man, I don't know what I'm gonna do. Yeah, it was pretty scary. It was pretty scary, but I was also confident, in my fitness, and
Right.
I rented a swimsuit. I remember from a place, and I
Mm.
never swim with a. That was my first time with a swimsuit,
With the
Oh,
also,
wow.
wetsuit?
Mm.
With the
and
wetsuit?
it felt really hard and really uncomfortable. But being my first race, I thought that's how it's supposed to be. That's how it's supposed to feel. I didn't have any, you know, other race to compare with,
No.
you
Yeah.
know.
So when you
So
finished the swim, you must have felt pretty good at that point and ready to get
yeah,
on the bike.
yeah. Finishing the swim, and then I was like, okay, this was not too bad when I got out of the water, and then I got this. And then I got on the bike, and I realized that the bike is very important because I didn't train for the bike because I said, it's
Anybody
it's
can
just a
ride a
bike
bike.
ride. It's just a
That's
bike
right.
ride. But Wildflower Triathlon, it's pretty brutal bike race, especially when you came out of the transition. You have I think like a 2 mile, you just go up.
Yeah.
And when I got to the top of that hill, I was like, man, I should have trained more for the bike.
Well, it sounds like you learned. I mean, this was a big learning experience
It was.
on so
It
many
was.
different levels.
It was. And yeah, the next year I try to train a little more on the bike. I bought a bike, and
The first time you did Wildflower, did you just use like tennis shoes on flat pedals? You didn't have the clip-ins?
no, I had my friend teach me how to use the clip-in shoes and stuff like that, and I was really scared that when I have to stop, if I'm going to be able to, not to fall from the bike.
Well,
Because
you
like I
sound
said,
like you face your fears very well.
Yeah.
yeah, I was pretty confident, and I'm going to any race like pretty sure that I have to finish. I have to do it.
Well, I want to go back to how we started this conversation where Bob asked why you moved from Romania to the U.S. and you just had this vision and you're going to do it. And you mentioned this confidence several times, and that really takes a lot of confidence to change country to go from country to country.
Oh
And I
yeah.
can see now taking on a triathlon, it's just like it's no big deal for you. I really appreciate this story because it's a big step, and yet you just sort of absorbed it and really did well, and you're doing well now. So I want to get from the bike to the run, and Bob, can I steal your question?
Go ahead. Go ahead.
So
I know
tell
where
us
you're
what it
going
was
with it.
like getting off that bike and doing your first run at Wildflower, which I know is that's also not an easy run either.
Yeah, how
Yeah,
did your legs feel?
it was not an easy run, but actually when I got out of the bike, when I finished the bike, I spent a lot of time in transition because I was not ready
Mhm.
for the transition to get the bike, and my bike fell. I put it back, hook it on the, I couldn't find stuff. But as soon as I put my shoes on, the first half a mile, I was just sprinting like,
Uh-oh.
I did not know what I was doing, but I was like, hey, I can run. Maybe I cannot swim, and I was not ready for the bike, but I can run. So I was sprinting for half a mile, and then I slowed down and I slowed down, and you know, I got cramped, about mile 4, I think. So I had to stop, because I was just pushing too much, way too
Yeah.
much than I was supposed. I did not know what I was doing. And I cramped, and I was like, man, I never cramped, playing
Yeah.
basketball. I mean, you get cramps at night, and stuff like that, but never during a
Mhm.
competition. And I was like, oh wow,
Yeah.
this is something, it was a learning experience. So I had
Yeah.
to
Yeah,
stop after 4 miles, and then the last 2 miles it was just downhill. So
Wow.
I think I got some Gatorade. I didn't have like salt pills and stuff like that. I was just doing whatever they were giving me on the course.
I,
it
Yeah.
sounds like you learned so much in that first race. You got a wealth of knowledge, everything from, how a wetsuit is
Yeah.
constricting if it's not, doesn't fit right, to the fact that you must be a really strong runner to be able to sprint coming off a bike like that. But then
Uh,
you learn
I used
nutrition.
to.
What's
I
that?
used to be. I used to run fast, but it's the second year it was a completely different experience.
well, before we do that, I want to hear. This is the big question: is what was the finish line like?
The finish line was like, it was amazing. I was on the chute over there. I was just sprinting again, forgetting about everything and adrenaline, and it felt amazing. And once I finished, well, once I passed the finish line, the first thing that came to my mind, man, I gotta do the long course. I think I can do this.
Oh, I love
That
it.
was the first thought. That was the first
Really?
thought that came to my mind. I gotta do the long course next
Oh, you
time. I
are a
gotta do the long
triathlete.
course.
Mm.
There's no question.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah.
That what a great entry into the sport. One on a borrowed bike with very little swimming background, very little bike, but you did it, and just a huge sense of accomplishment, which it should be. But now I know. Now let me fast forward to you did. You've got Ironman 70.3 St. George shirt on, so you did the half. You also did Ironman Coeur d'Alene, right?
Yes.
All right,
Yes.
so now you've gone from that introduction to racing to now Coeur d'Alene. Maybe give some comparing and some contrasting of how you train for Ironman Coeur d'Alene versus how you train for that first one, which was a month and a half, sort of just putting it all together. How do you train now?
For the Ironman Coeur d'Alene, I kind of have pretty much the same mentality what I had with my first triathlon. Like failure is not an option, so I had to do it. So I wanted to go to Coeur d'Alene actually in 2020, but I got deferred to St. George, and then I said, well, if I got deferred, I might as well just go for the full.
Mhm.
So that's what I did. And in 2020 everything was like up and down, and I was training, and then I stopped, and then I do it again. I did not know what I was doing. So
Mm.
at in January I was pretty heavy. I was pretty heavy dude. I was 220 pounds. i'm
Whoa.
i'm pretty bulky guy,
Yeah.
but 2 weeks before Coeur d'Alene, I was 189. So I
Mm.
lost about 31 pounds in 6 months. I've been training almost every day. Uh,
Congratulations. That's fantastic. What a
Yeah,
big difference
that's
in
yeah,
huge.
weight
yeah.
too.
I
Thank
Yeah.
you.
got a question for you, Bogdan. You that was a really fast ramp up. You to go to a full in like 6 months of training. Did you have any injuries that you had to deal with, or any problems physically?
Yes, the last 3 weeks, right when I started, the taper for
Hmm.
the full,
Hmm.
I could not run anymore. Like my hips just stopped. I tried everything. I did foam rolling, everything that I knew. I don't have a coach. I never have had a coach. I'm just doing everything, the way I think things should be. And I couldn't run for the last 3 weeks. I couldn't run at all because I pushed myself too much. It was another learning experience. I think full distance Ironman is a different sport.
Mhm.
If I say like the training and all that, it's just different. So it was a learning experience for a full Ironman also. I pushed myself too much, way too much than I was. I mean, I had like before I started taper, I had even like 20-hour week trains, which for an amateur like me, now I realize that it was a little too much. I was doing it a little too much. But
How did the hip issue resolve? How did you do that? What you do?
I'm still having issues, but I managed. I went to a physical therapist, and I'm doing a lot of hip strengthening exercises, and it feels a lot better. Feels a lot better. But even now, if I'm doing 60, 70-mile bike rides, and I try to run after that, I started to feel the second day. I'm starting to feel the
I've got to
pain
throw
in my
something out there
hips.
to recommend a trainer named Nancy Jones. She's good
Okay.
with hip issues, and she
Okay.
has, several people have commented that, she can take the pain out of your hip with some certain, work exercises and strengthening exercises and stretching and things, release.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know there's stuff up there
Yeah,
that I have
there's
to try.
and we all try to stay injury free. It's so hard because especially someone like you with your team competition athletic background, you probably have the mindset a little bit more is always a little bit better. But that's something
Yeah.
that we've got to figure out is what is that effective dose. So that's a good thing, and you're going down that journey, and that's wonderful. So now you've done sprints all the way up to full Ironman races and everything in between. Which has been the distance that you really tend to gravitate towards, that you really want to continue to work towards?
Um, I really think I want to do the full distance Ironman. I think I want this to be my number one race.
hmm,
You know,
Mhm.
uh, yeah. I enjoyed it.
Yeah,
I love being at the finish line.
yeah.
Doing a full distance Ironman, and I'm planning, maybe I have my races for this year, but next year I'm planning maybe on doing two full distance if
Ah,
my health
yep.
allows me, and I have time enough to train.
it
So would
sounds like
would
you're a type of an athlete that, the bigger the challenge, the bigger the reward,
mhm.
and the challenge of a full Ironman gives you the reward that you're looking for.
Yeah, I always try to go for the hardest things. I
Uh,
always speak, like whatever it's the hardest thing, I kind of go towards that.
oh, I
But
love it.
I love it. I mean, I'm the past 2 years of training and racing, and I started to enjoy training more and more,
Mm,
Hmm.
and enjoy racing. And now that I joined the tri club, I'm trying to make some friends, and
Yeah,
and stuff like that. So I'm starting to enjoy this, with every month, with every race that I'm doing. I start to love it even more.
that's
well,
great.
is
No,
this
Yeah.
a good tie-in to ask what you have for 2022? What do you have planned?
Yeah, 2022. So I'm trying to do as many local races as possible here. I'm trying to get to the sprint and the Las Vegas Triathlon, and
Mhm.
and I'm doing Oceanside. I'm doing Oregon 70.3. This is races that I signed up already, and I'm doing the full Ironman Arizona in
Good.
November.
Wonderful.
Yeah,
Yeah.
those are three really good races. So that's fantastic. And I like the 70.3 and the full. That's a good mixture.
What does your
Yeah.
wife think about you training? How is she supportive of this? Or it takes a lot of time to train like you're training.
Yes. Well, I'm trying to keep everybody happy, you
Yeah.
know.
That's
So
part
I'm
of the
trying to
challenge,
do
isn't
my
it?
training in the morning and then work, and
Yeah.
yeah, she's been great. She's been great. My
Very
wife,
good.
she's been
That's
supportive of me.
important.
So
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Yep. Keeping up that balance is important. All right. So now thinking back to all the races that you've done, which one would you pick as your favorite race?
I gotta say, my favorite race, because it was the one where I didn't have, the result that I wanted to. It's the St. George 70.3, and I'm gonna try to go to that race every year
Oh.
to the 70.3 and to the full Ironman until I'm gonna get the result that I want. Because yeah, that's a
Yeah.
tough race, and I
It
I love it.
is.
I love it.
What makes it your favorite?
Uh, I just love the people over there. It's just people. They're just so supportive over there of the Ironman triathlon and triathlon in general. I've done Coco Pelli triathlon over there, and
Mhm.
it's and I love the course as well. It's very challenging. So
I'm not surprised that you picked that one. That's and yeah, you're right. It's sometimes it's your favorite race isn't always the one that you did the best at, but it's the one that's the biggest challenge, and that that course is a challenge. So
yeah, yeah. And I also would like to go back to maybe the Wildflower Triathlon if they ever gonna hold it,
hmm
That would be
because
cool.
that's a very tough race. Also, it's a
hmm
combination, especially the run. It's brutal. It's trail. It's road.
yeah,
It's very challenging.
I love it. Okay, so now we'll flip it a little bit here. And what advice do you give to someone getting started into the sport or taking on long course?
Uh, advice. It's an advice that I've heard like a lot of experience triathletes are saying it. I think consistency in training is the most important thing.
hmm
If you stop training, for a week or two or a month, it is endurance. You can lose endurance relatively quickly. I
Right.
think in a month you're just, and it's that period when you start to get back to training. I think consistency is it's one of the most important thing to in
That's
order to feel good, to stay injury free, to have better results. I think that's the most important thing. Yeah.
Yeah, that's important for everyone to hear. So it's
Mm.
you have learned well, all of your
Yeah.
learnings. That's one thing that John had to beat into my head was to get the consistency. It's so much easier to stay in shape than it is to get in shape. So if you stay consistent and you don't have to struggle to get back into shape.
Mhm.
So
Well, and
Yeah.
Bogdan, you're a
Yeah.
big testament to this because you drop 31 pounds. You do that through consistent hard work, and so that's really great. And great to hear you talk about wanting to enjoy the journey because that is so important just to enjoy the training and enjoy the other people, and that's great to be part of the community that way.
Yeah. Yeah. Totally. I'm enjoying it. More and more.
good.
I
Well,
love it. Yeah.
I am so glad that we've had this talk because I've learned more about you, which is always good. Now I know you're a basketball player. You must be going crazy with March Madness. I don't know if you're following the basketball now, but
I kind of stopped. I
Yeah.
kind of glimpsed to, NCAA and NBA a little bit,
Yeah.
but I
You
I've
had your
done,
fill.
yeah, yeah,
Well, that's great, and I'm so glad that you found the sport, and I'm so glad you found the club. And I think the three of us are all going to be in Oceanside, so hopefully we can meet up in Oceanside and
Yeah.
in
cool,
person and
yeah,
say hi. That'd be great.
that would be
So
awesome. Yeah,
Well,
thank you so much for doing this tonight. And I'm still in John's role here. I'm just saying, it's we said we would keep you about 30 minutes, and it's been going 30 minutes. So thank you so much for being here,
yeah.
for doing this with us.
thank you so much for having me, and thank you guys for doing this. I think it's very, very good for all the club members.
Mhm.
That's right.
But it's great to hear the stories, and it's really neat to hear
Yeah.
your story of how you got in from volunteering and just this, just this real confidence that you have. It really carries you a long way, and so it's great for people to hear this. So thank you, Bogdan. Have a great night, and hopefully we'll see you in 2 weeks.
Yeah, we'll see you in St. George.
Yeah.
I know, 2 weeks.
All
See you in
right.
St. George. I mean, in Oceanside.
Oceanside. Yeah. Thank you guys. Thank you.
Yeah. All right. Have a good evening.
Good evening.